Greetings and welcome to another episode of Going All In, Get the Edge You Need to Succeed. I'm Dr. Erin McKinley, and today we have another awesome spotlight session with Jamisha Leftwich from the University of North Florida Individualized Supervised Practice Pathway, or otherwise known as ISPP, distance program. All right, Jamisha, welcome to the podcast. To get us started for this episode, give us a little bit of background on you, your journey to RD, and how you landed at North Florida.
Perfect. Sure. So my name is Dr. Jamisha Leftwich, and I am the program coordinator for the UNF ISPP program. So I have a long history with UNF because I am a 3-time graduate of UNF. So I received my bachelor's, my master's, and my dietetic internship combined at UNF, and most recently my doctorate with UNF. So I'm very familiar with the campus and the courses as well as the program. And I think that's what helps make me really approachable to the students, because they know that I went through the same thing they are going through currently. So I really love that aspect about it. But after I received my master's degree, I started working as a clinical dietitian. And then I decided to switch and try something new. And I went into community. And I became a dietitian for WIC, and I became the director for WIC for about 7 years. And so I did that and loved it for about 7 years. And then after completing my doctorate degree, there was an opportunity to work with the internship at UNF. And like I said before, I just loved UNF. I was there for so many years, so I gladly accepted it. And I've been there ever since.
All right, that's awesome. So I'm going to let you jump into a presentation about your program.
Definitely. Perfect. So let's get started. So University of North Florida is located in Jacksonville, Florida, which is the northeastern part of Florida. And so today we're going to talk about the ISPP program, or the Individualized Supervised Practice Pathway. So UNF has 2 different pathways in terms of becoming an RD. So the one is the traditional sense of the master's and internship combined, or the MSDI program. And the other pathway, which most students are not so aware of, is the ISPP pathway, which is the one I'm going to talk about today. So the ISPP program is a distance, non-degree seeking dietetic internship. So what does that mean? So this means that you can complete your internship with UNF, but be in any state in the United States, which is great for some students who do not, want to move, especially now with COVID going on. In addition, the program is non-degree seeking, which means you will only be completing your internship and not taking classes at the same time. So this is great for students who want to work while completing an internship at the same time, or has family demands at home, or, wants to complete a graduate degree later on, or in a different discipline, or just wants a little bit more flexibility in their schedule. So our program mission is to prepare competent registered dietitians, but who can work in any area of dietetics and be successful in cultural environments. This mission is very important to us just because we don't want our graduates just to have the knowledge, but we want to be able to apply that knowledge with all cultural groups. And that's what really makes a great dietitian. And so our program admits 15 interns each year to begin in August. The length of the program is really dependent on the intern, because the intern controls their own schedule. They can complete the internship part-time or full-time. If the intern is completing the internship full-time, which is about 40 hours a week, they can expect to finish the program within about 6.5 months. And if part-time, the internship has to be completed within 30 months for accreditation standards. So let's see, who's eligible to apply? Well, there are 2 ways to be eligible. You can either be a graduate from a dietetic program or have a doctoral degree. So if you are a DPD graduate, there are 2 requirements. You must have a verification statement from the DPD program, and 2, not have matched to an internship in the past. So ISPP programs can be kind of seen as a second chance for students who may not have been accepted into their top school, but still are great students and want to become a registered dietitian. So secondly, doctoral students who receive a doctorate degree in some type of nutrition-related field, they can apply, but they do not have to have a verification statement from a DPD program. So one important aspect about the ISPP program is that interns are expected to find their own sites, their own rotations. So don't be alarmed. I will help you with this. UNF has many connections with so many hospitals and facilities across the nation that we have a large preceptor database, and I'll be able to help you find and confirm those sites that work best for you. Also on the Academy website, eatright.org, there is a Find a Preceptor database where the intern can find preceptors in their local area who are willing to accept and work with the interns. In addition, we do not require the interns to have their rotation secured prior to applying to the program. It's nice, of course, if the interns have an idea where they would like to be placed, but it's not an absolute requirement to apply. Also, the fact that interns are able to find their own preceptors helps the intern to create an internship that is structured to their wants and needs. For instance, if the intern knows that they want some exposure to peds and sports nutrition, they can have their outpatient rotation at a pediatric outpatient clinic, and their specialty rotation could be working with a sports dietitian. We will get into the different rotations in just a minute, but the fact that you can really customize the rotations to fit your wants and needs really is an ideal component of the program. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the rotations a little bit. So I already mentioned how the ISPP intern is able to customize the rotation sites, but they also choose what order they want to complete their rotations in. So if they wanted to start with food service, then move to community, then clinical, they can, or whatever order works best for their needs and their schedule. The only rotation that has to be in a specific order is the concentration or specialty rotation. That needs to be your last rotation. That way you have exposure to all areas of dietetics before deciding on what you want more experience in. So listed on the screen, you can see different hour requirements for each rotation. So food service will require 180 hours, community is 240 hours, clinical is 460 hours, and lastly, the concentration is 120 hours. So that totals to 1,000 supervised practice hours. So if the intern is full-time, working about 40 hours a week or so, they can finish the internship in about 6.5 months or 25 weeks. So let's look into the different areas. So the first one we have is food service management. So food service management typically includes any type of food production and procurement, food service systems, management, employee education. We also make sure that you have some type of retail and tray line experience. So this is typically done in a hospital, but you also could do like a long-term care facility, schools, anything like that has that patient diet education as well as the tray line and retail experience. So it's completely up to you which one of these you want to do your rotation at, but 180 hours is required for that part. And then after that is clinical. So we divide clinical into 3 different sections. So we call it MNT1, which is more of your just acute general inpatient. So this typically can be done at a long-term care facility or like a med surg area, that general inpatient, just kind of getting your feet wet with clinical. MNT2 is more of that trauma, that critical care where you see more the TPN, parental nutrition, things of that nature. And the last part is your outpatient. This is where you still do MNT, but in an outpatient setting. So we divide it into 3 sections like that. So MNT1, which is that regular acute care, that's 140 hours. That trauma, that critical care, MNT2, that's 200 hours. And the outpatient is 120 hours. And so you can do these hours in 3 different places if you wanted to, or you could do it in all one site if you wanted to. It's completely up to you. But you could do it at a hospital, long-term care facility, like I mentioned, an outpatient clinic, like a diabetes clinic, dialysis clinic, anything like that to get those hours and that experience. Let's see. Okay, so community. So community, one of my specialties, I love this area. Community, you can have so many different areas that you can choose from. One of the things that we do require, out of those 240 hours, 80 of those hours have to be at a WIC facility. That way you can get that experience with that population of infants and children, mothers, breastfeeding. You really don't get that experience too many other places. So WIC is a wonderful opportunity to do that. So we do require 80 hours at a WIC facility. The rest of the hours is completely up to you wherever you want to get that at. So you could do at a food pantry, YMCAs, or any type of gym for wellness, childcare facilities, schools, anything like that that gives you that community aspect where you're really focusing on nutrition for a group. That's what you can do the rest of your hours at for community. So lots of opportunities there. And then lastly is concentration or your specialty. So once you go through the entire internship, you kind of start to know, well, I like this or I don't like that. And so it's a really good idea for you to just really focus in on what you think that you may want your first job to be, what you want to work in. So that's why we allow for the concentration. So we allow for you to choose that. It could be in any area, any specialty that you find that you just want a little bit more exposure to. So that could be food service, or you can do oncology or private practice or sports. Like I said before, dietetics is such a wide, broad field that you can pretty much do anything with dietetics. Now telehealth is becoming bigger need and on demand. So a lot of our interns are working with telehealth, doing social media, things of that nature. So, the options are endless in terms of what you choose for your concentration. So, and that's 120 hours. And that's typically your last rotation before you finish. All right, so what else do we offer? So other opportunities. So within your tuition, we offer a $500 travel stipend. And so that travel stipend can help you go to conferences, whatever conference you want to. FNCE, of course, is a big one that we love to send our interns to just before that networking and that exposure. And also to see the presentations, it's just a wonderful opportunity to see an area with all these dietitians in one place. So we love for them to have that exposure. So we do provide a travel stipend of $500. If they choose not to go to FNCE, they can do like their local areas, nutrition symposium. So Florida, we call it the Florida Fans, but whatever your local area is, you can go to that symposium as well. Or here in Florida as well, we do legislative day. So other states may do that as well, where they can go and talk to their legislative and get that experience with public policy as well. So whatever opportunity they want to go for traveling, we do offer that $500 stipend, which is included in the tuition. So that's just one of the great perks of the ISPP program at UNF. So a lot of our students love that. Okay, so we talked about expense. Let's talk about expenses. Really important. So for when you first submit your application, it's $50 for the application fee. Then overall, the total cost for the program is $7,450. That's for everyone in Florida, California, wherever. Everyone pays that same amount. Now, the thing is with this, you can pay in increments. You don't have to pay all at once, which is amazing, especially for students who have to work and things of that nature, who has families, of course, that's understandable. So you can pay as you go with your rotation. So each rotation would be $2,000. Your last rotation, the specialty rotation, would be $1,450, still totaling $7,450, but it's an increment. So it makes it a little bit more easy to manage. All right, so how is UNF different? One thing I really want to highlight is what makes us different, why you should select us. Well, we offer our students and our interns lots of things to help them to become successful. So for one, we offer a 3-day study session after the end of their rotations. After they finish their internship, they automatically are enrolled in a 3-day study session. So during this review session, we review all 4 domains that are on the RD exam. And it's kind of like a boot camp. We just really just go into everything. We provide you with flashcards, we provide you with practice tests, and we just go over everything you learned in your internships. In addition, we assess prior learning. So sometimes a lot of our ISPP students are non-traditional students, so they may have worked before in the past. And so with the prior learning, they can use that work experience and apply it for their hours. So say, for instance, there's an intern who was a CDM or a dietary manager for 12 years before deciding to switch careers and become a dietitian. Well, they can count those years of experience and not require you to do those 180 hours of food service. So it shortens your time as an intern because you already have work experience. So you understand and you're competent in those areas. So we do assess that. We could do that both for food service and community hours. We can't do that for clinical, but we could do it for food service and community. In addition, 100% of our graduates are employed within 1 year or sooner after graduation. That's just because we prepare you, we drill you, we make sure that you understand, what you're going to do and what you're going to need to be successful as a dietitian. And also, when you're in these places as an intern, you can kind of think of it, that's like your job interview. When you're showing them that you're competent in these skills and that you have great time management and you're diligent, you're going to get your work done. They're like, well, I trained you already as an intern, I can hire you. So it makes you just that more successful with doing your internship with these different places, as well as our, UNF is very known for having great, successful interns. So it just makes it you very eligible to become employed. On the screen, you can see some of the areas that our graduates are employed in. Some hospitals are in the local area, but you can see they're employed everywhere. Private practice, food companies, sports, insurance areas, government agencies, academia, research. So basically all over. So I think that's really important. Just shows you, like I said before, UNF we expose you to such different areas in dietetics that you can pretty much work anywhere. So the opportunities are endless there. All right, so I now have a testimony from a past ISPP student. It's always great to hear what I have to say as a coordinator, but it's really awesome to hear what the past students have to say since they actually went through the program. So let's see what she has to say.
Hi, my name is Alice. I'm a former ISPP student at the University of North Florida, and the things I really liked about the ISPP program is that the program allows you a lot of flexibility with your schedule. So I was able to schedule my rotations around going to grad school and working, and it was really nice to be able to work my schedule around it and still be able to complete the internship in a timely manner. I also like the variety of the places I got to go to. There were a lot of different facilities that I got to get experience at, like long-term care, acute intensive care, including working at local HIV clinics and working at the VA. So it was really great to get a well-rounded experience, and I think it's made me a better practitioner now. And the other thing I really like about the program is that you can receive some reimbursement from your tuition for travel expenses to attend conferences like the Florida Food and Nutrition Symposium, or even conferences such as FENCI. And so that was a really nice perk of the program. And I also like that I passed my RD exam the first time, and that was with the help of the book that they give us. It's the Breedings and Associates book, and it was a really great tool that I was able to use, and it helped me be successful. And another great thing that happened while I was in the ISPP program was I was offered a job at one of my rotations. So there are a lot of really great perks of being a part of this program, and I hope that you decide to choose it as well.
So how do you apply? So since you have to have proof of not being matched before in the past, we start accepting applications after match date. So this year we started taking applications on April 9th. You can use the same application that you have in DICAS, and you can just send it to us during second round. We do require a UNF ISPP application, which is on our website. Your 3 references like normal, your vita or your personal statement, those are the same as your normal applications. But we do require some additional things that you could just email or mail us as well. Your transcript should already be in the DICAS system, but your proof of your original verification form, that has to be mailed to us. We need the original one with the different color signature. We have to have that one. I already mentioned the evidence of not being matched. So typically you'll get an email from D&D and saying, like, unfortunately, you haven't been matched. That email we need. So just send it to us, and that way we have proof that you weren't matched before. And then, of course, if you have an idea of where you want to do your internship, your rotations at, complete the preceptor and facility information forms. If not, that's okay. We'll work with you. But those are the things that we need in your application. And so the deadline for your application is May 21st. this year, and you will receive a decision by July 13th. Typically, once I receive your application, you will get an email from me right away to schedule an interview and just kind of get to know you a little bit more and go from there. But either way, you'll get a decision from us by July 13th, because we have a start date of August for our interns. Okay, so let's just go over some frequently asked questions that I typically get every day. So let's see. So what stands out most on the application? So this is important. So at UNF, when I'm looking at your applications, I don't look just by myself. We have a whole team that looks at the applications. So we look at it holistically, not just at GPA. That's not one thing. We look at it, of course, but that's not the only thing we focus on. We read your personal statements. We look to see if you have any volunteer work, which I know is hard right now during COVID, but just seeing what you're able to do, or any work experience as well, any honors or scholarships that you received. Those are some of the things that we really look at to see, or research that you've done. Just making sure that you're doing well-rounded, basically, like you're doing more than just your academia, you're well-rounded. So that's really important. That's kind of what stands out for us. Second question, what is the average GPA of your intern that you accept? Do you look more at the overall GPA for the upper level nutrition junior senior classes, or overall GPA, which includes your 4 years of college? If you consider both, do you have a ranking system of which is more important than the other? That's a long question, but let's get into it. So we focus on those upper level classes, that GPA for your DPD program, because that's what you're going to be doing during your internship. So those classes are what really matters to us. So we look at that GPA. The average GPA is between typically about a 3.4 or higher. Now, say for instance, you have a 3.0, does that automatically disqualify you? No, not at all. So definitely still apply. We, like I said before, we look at the interns holistically. So if you have a 3.3 GPA, but you volunteer so much, or you're in research, you're doing other things, you're definitely still a great student. We definitely want you in our program. So definitely still apply with that. The third question, for non-traditional students, such as parents, how do you handle days that might have missed due to family requirements, sick families, etc.? So we understand. I'm a mom. We understand life happens, and that's okay, but communication is key. That's really important. We want to make sure that we communicate with not only myself as your coordinator, but with your preceptor, so they're on the same page with you. We do understand that you may be sick sometime, or things happen, or there's emergencies, but just communicating with us, letting us know what's going on, communicating with your preceptor so they know what's going on, and we can get you right on track. So that's okay. Things happen. We understand that. Fourth question, how has COVID impacted your interns, your internship program, and how does your program intend on handling the issue in the future? So in March of 2020, university, of course, went all virtual. All of our sites typically closed, didn't allow any of our interns to do their internship hours there. So we had to be a little bit more creative. Fortunately, Ascend, which is our governing body of the internship, they allow some flexibility in this. So we were able to drop the required hours. It used to be 1,200 hours, and now it's 1,000 hours. So we've kept that. In addition, during that time, we had to switch to virtual rotations. So we had to use our specialties. So like I said, I'm a community dietitian. So I would work with the interns with community during their WIC. I trained them all on WIC. I did everything for them with that. So we had to do more virtual at that point. And that lasted until about maybe May or June. But now we are back to normal. So none of our rotations are virtual anymore. Everyone's still back in their clinical sites. Everyone's still doing anything face-to-face. So what we still do have that flexibility. If we need virtual rotations, for instance, you're in a state that your numbers are still very high and your hospitals and things are still not open for interns, we will still allow for some virtual hours. That's still okay. But we'll work with you in that sense. But right now, everything is back to normal, at least here in Florida, but we'll still work with you in your state as well. Okay, so the fifth question. What type of financial aid is offered to ISPP interns? So as I mentioned before, when you are an ISPP intern, you are considered an intern and not a student. So you can't apply for financial aid, a student, because you're not taking classes. Now, if you were to apply for our online master's program, then you would be considered a student. At that point, you can apply for financial aid. However, there are lots of scholarships and grant opportunities available for our interns. The Academy Foundation typically offers grants and scholarships throughout the year. UNF offers lots of scholarships as well. Your local association, your local academy association typically sometimes gives scholarships as well. And I typically send these out in emails to my students, my interns all the time, letting them know, hey, apply for this. You're eligible for this. Just that way they can have that little bit of financial freedom as well. So I do try to help in that way too. But in terms of like student loans, you won't be able to apply for that unless you're taking classes as well. And like I said, we do have a online master's program at UNF that you could possibly apply to if you wanted to. And so with that is everything. There's my contact information. I'm sure there's more questions.
All right. Thank you for that overview. It's very thorough. I love the extra questions that I'm sure you get emailed all the time.
Yes.
You're recording of them constantly.
Exactly.
All right. I'm going to jump into the 5 questions that I ask all directors that come on the program. You might have touched a little bit on some of these throughout your presentation, but we'll go ahead and roll into those. So my first question is there one thing in particular that you just love to see when you're reading an applicant's personal statement?
So there's a couple of things. So a personal statement really speaks about you. It lets me know who you are. And so telling me who you are is really important. Giving me history of like, what's your food philosophy? Why you want to become a dietitian? Those aspects about you lets me know, your personality kind of gives me a little bit more about you, but also that you've looked into our program. So putting something about UNF and our program in your personal statement really stands out because it shows that you took the extra step to actually research our program and to know that our program, is the right fit for you because we have this, this, and this. You're not just applying and sending the same application to several different schools. I want to make sure that you looked and saw that our program fits you. So I think those are really important things I look for.
All right. So when we're talking about an applicant's resume, are you a fan of the one-pager or are you flexible depending on their experience?
Definitely flexible. I don't like the rules. Sometimes one page only, one and nothing else. No, that's not true. I feel like we can't limit our students in just that one page because students nowadays have so much experience. They work, they volunteer, and sometimes we have a lot of non-traditional students. This may be a second career for them. So they have a lot of experience, and so we shouldn't, really make them try to fit everything onto one page. If it falls onto 2 pages, that's perfectly fine. But also, I'm going to say, don't add a lot of fluff into your resume. Make sure it's just the work experience, your volunteer experience, your education, the things that really matters, awards, scholarships, honors, those things that really matter. So putting those on your resume. But if it's more than 1 page, that's okay.
All right, perfect. So what is one or more thing that an applicant may do that might raise some red flags for you where you would think this person might not be the best fit for our program?
Definitely. So if I've met the person, say for instance, at a conference or face-to-face, that's really important. Say for instance, they did something like were disrespectful or rude, that's an automatic no. I just can't have that type of personality in the program because you're not only working with me, but you're working with preceptors as well. And if you're rude to me the first time I see you or anything like that, that just shows maybe how you will act with the preceptors as well. And when you go out with your preceptors, you're not only representing yourself, you're representing UNF as well. So I want to make sure that, we have the best students out there. So that's like if I meet them face to face. So even if your emails, when you're sending emails, making sure you're sending them very respectfully as well. On an application, if it's just not filled out correctly, like if they left a lot of blanks or they didn't take the time and energy to spell out different things or there's lots of grammar mistakes, that just shows me, they didn't take their time. And so that they may not be the best fit.
All right. So what is one area of the program that you're actively working on trying to make an even better experience for the interns?
We always changing things. But one area in particular I'm working on right now is I've noticed that a lot of our interns, they are shy or timid when it comes to clinical. For some reason, they're just nervous about clinical. So what I'm doing now is that all of our interns, before they start any of their rotations, will go through a clinical boot camp. And that way they can just understand and kind of get their feet wet and kind of take off some of those nerves of what they'll be doing in clinical practice, and just reviewing some of those things that they need to know before going to clinical, and practicing, like, I'm the patient, what are you going to say to me? What is your idea for this calculation? What do you think? Let's talk about this. So that way we can have that time for them to make mistakes, and even though they can make mistakes while they're in an internship as well, but make more mistakes while they're working with me, and then by the time they get to clinical with their preceptor, they feel a bit more prepared. So that's one of the things that we're really working on right now.
Do you do that, do they go through that on their own? Do you do it over a Zoom call? How do you manage that when they're all separate?
So we'll do it over a Zoom. That way I can see, and that way we can do that patient one-to-one or in a group interaction, so I can see, what questions they would ask. When you go into a room, this kind of sometimes can be intimidating and not knowing what questions to ask. So, allowing them to practice patient interviewing, practice doing those calculations, everything. So all through Zoom, that way it can be in any place of the country and still participate.
That sounds awesome. I might need a boot camp. It's been a while. All right. So what would be the 3 best adjectives that you feel best describes your program overall?
Good question. So I think the first one is flexible, just because this internship allows for so much flexibility. You could do part-time, full-time, you could begin full-time, then go part-time. That's completely up to you. Your sites are up to you. So definitely that flexibility is one of the first words I would use to describe it. But then also evidence-based. So I think that can be tattooed on my forehead, because I feel like I say that all the time. Where's your evidence? Where's your evidence? Let's talk about evidence and research. And we always say something in terms of when we're doing presentations or case studies, you have to have evidence to back it up, because that's what separates us from your nutritionists or your other people, your influencers on Instagram. That's what separates us as a registered dietitian, is that evidence. So that's why we're constantly talking about that. I'm constantly showing them how to do research, how to critically look at research. So evidence-based is another quality. And I think the last one would be maybe inclusive or caring or understanding, or a combination of all 3. Just because, like I said before, I've been through the program. I know what it's like to be an intern and how demanding it is. So, I'm very understanding and caring, and because I did it. So I know, what they're going through. And so I think that's another part of it.
All right. So second half of this last question, the 3 best adjectives, descriptors, or phrases that you feel describes your ideal applicant.
Good question. So definitely proactive or self-starter, because of the fact that you have to find your own rotations. So you have to be a go-getter. So you have to, want to reach out to preceptors and take that extra step that maybe a traditional intern wouldn't have to do. Also determined, because like I said, it's self-paced. So you have to be determined to finish. You have to be determined to want to move on to your next rotations and get the things done. And lastly, I would say probably diligence, just so that way you can get your work done. You are in constant communication with me, and especially since we may be across the country from each other, depending on what state you are. So just being, diligent and reaching out to me or having meetings with me as well. So.
All right, perfect. I did think of a question while you were giving your presentation on the background of the program. So when it comes time to apply, are you waiting until everyone applies for May 21st and then you're making all of your decisions, or do you accept on a rolling basis?
I accept on a rolling basis.
Okay. Yeah. So when students are still in senior year and they don't quite have their verification statement in hand until maybe mid-March, after graduation, kind of following Ascend rules, does that count against them, or is it kind of understood that if their intent is in their DICUS application that it's coming?
We understand because we see the intent, so we completely understand. So we'll wait until they receive their verification for us to get it, but we won't hold off on accepting them until we get that. Because as long as we know they have an intent to graduate, then yeah, that's fine, and we go ahead and accept them.
So have you found that you tend to fill most of your spots well before your actual deadline, since you do accept on a rolling basis? Because I know second round, it's like you hit the ground running and people are scrambling, and it's like work as fast as possible to get the spot that you want. Do you find that you usually get a bulk of your students pretty quickly?
It depends. Like last year was a slower year, and I don't know if that was because of COVID and everything. So last year was slower. I was still accepting students through July. So, but other years past, it was pretty fast. I typically send out emails to all DPD directors, different groups online to see, if we have openings. So I send them out that same day on match days. That way they can kind of be prepared and kind of go ahead and send us their information right away.
All right. Well, that was all the questions that I had. So to close us out for this episode, give us a quick take-home message for potential applicants this year.
Definitely. So I would just say, be yourself, relax, it's going to be okay. So I know a lot of our students are anxious this time of year. They have so much going on. They're seniors, and, they're anxious in terms of trying to figure out where their next step is. This is kind of like the fork in the road type situation for them. So take this time, relax. It's going to be okay. You're going to get to your next destination, no worries. And be yourself on your applications. When we have interviews, we're just talking to you. We're just trying to get to know you better. So this is your time to shine. Don't feel timid to kind of pat yourself on the back. Let us know of your accomplishments. That's okay to do. And it's important to do at that point. So I think that's my biggest take-home message.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on this episode. And for those at home who would like some more information on the ISPP program at the University of North Florida, I've provided the program URL to their website in the description below this video. And as always, don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you never miss an episode with another awesome